Welcome to Here's My Thing, everybody. My name is Frankie Salazar, and today's topic is going to be the controversy surrounding e.l.f. Cosmetics and their newest face of the company being none other than, you guessed it, Matt Rife. Now, for those of you who are aware, e.l.f. Cosmetics just did a brand new ad campaign making Matt Rife the face of their company, and it totally backfired for a couple of reasons. And we're going to get into those reasons in just a second. But for those of you who don't know Matt Rife, he is a comedian that was propelled into stardom in the early 2020s during the COVID era, and it's just totally gone Mach 5 down the highway, just totally crazy. And he just is more or less an A-lister comedian now in the comedian space. Now, the problem with this recent ad is that Matt Rife caters to a certain kind of people and a certain kind of comedy, particularly that of none other than DV. Now, because YouTube is soft nowadays, I can't actually say the word of what that is, but for those of you who are over the age of 5, you'll know what I mean. So the reason that he makes use of these kind of jokes is Netflix, back in 2023, gave him a special called Natural Selection. And in the opening monologue, like we're talking in the first 30 seconds of this special, he makes a joke about a waitress's black eye and why it is that she may or may not have it. Go ahead and take a look for yourself.
I've only been to Baltimore one time. I ate lunch there, and the hostess who seats you at the restaurant had a black eye. A full black eye. And it wasn't what happened? Yeah, it was pretty obvious what happened. And my boy who I was with was like, yeah, I feel bad for her, man. I feel like they should put her in the kitchen or something where nobody has to see her face, And I was like, yeah, but I feel like if she could cook, she wouldn't have that black eye.
Now, after he'd received backlash for that joke, he doubles down in an interview with Vanity Fair, saying, quote, "I figured that if we started the show with DV, the rest of the show would be smooth sailing." Now, I can't really blame him for that, because when you start your show with something as controversial and nasty as DV, I guess there's pretty much nothing else you could say short of, racism that would have gotten people upset, But having felt the heat from the backlash, he takes to Instagram to make an apology, okay? So he did feel bad. He sees all the backlash that he's getting from making such a nasty and sensitive joke, and he wants to set the record straight and actually apologize. So in the apology, he attaches a link, because on Instagram he said, for the full link to my apology, please click the link that he had attached. And when you click the link, people were probably thinking that it was going to take them to some kind of written statement of some kind, but no. It sent people to a website that sold special needs helmets. Yeah. Now, DV aside, he also just has a tendency to make fun of women and their body, particularly their reproductive parts. So I'm going to go ahead and play the clip for you in just a second so you can go ahead and take a look for yourself what he had to say about a certain thing, a certain God-given part of a woman's intimate parts, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's what am I supposed to you or thumb wrestle? I don't love a giant. I don't want to look down and feel like God left a tag on you.
So clearly, we know that the demographic that he is targeting in his comedy is not women. Okay, if that wasn't apparent to you enough as it is, that really should be. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. His comedy is not catered to women for obvious reasons. Now, granted though, he acknowledges, in many interviews, he himself acknowledges that it was women themselves who propelled him into stardom in the first place, saying, quote, "Without women, I would have never gained the momentum I did on social media, and I am so grateful for that." But the problem is that he seems to have forgotten that, saying, but in doing that, quote, "A lot of dudes didn't like that, ... I feel like my comedy is more for guys than women." So, he gay. He gay as hell for that. But all that madness aside, let's take it back to before he was the star that he is today, okay? So his controversy predates his stardom. So for anybody that watched the show Wild 'N Out, there's a moment where he touches Zendaya on the face without her consent, allegedly, and the whole crowd goes absolutely insane. Okay, go ahead and take a look for yourself.
Look, you're mixed. I want to be black. Let's make a lifestyle move. Spit that water out so I can get your number, please. I didn't touch it.
And for those of you who are aware of who Matt Rife is, you're aware of what he looks like, okay? He's very chiseled. It almost looks as though he's gotten some Botox done. He's gotten his teeth redone. He's had a whole lot of work done for somebody that likes to clown on what women look like, even though, let's go ahead and take a look at his response to the backlash after the Zendaya incident and what he used to look like prior to stardom.
First of all, y'all acting like I harassed this woman and she didn't ask for it by looking me straight in my soul, okay? Just because I caress a woman's face, everybody's just gonna freak out?
Now, all of his recent controversies aside, let's take it back to the actual e.l.f. Cosmetics ad, shall we? So he, with the help of another actor who is a drag queen named Heidi in Closet, they play as lawyers, right? Who are fighting for access to affordable makeup for all. And we're gonna go ahead and play a clip in just a second. But once the ad hit the internet, it was a complete dumpster fire, to say the least. I mean, it was absolute madness, with thousands of videos of people overnight speaking on his prior controversies, such as myself, and even throwing away, videotaping themselves, throwing away and even incinerating their e.l.f. products. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and play the ad right now, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and actually play where people's responses were when they were actually throwing away the cosmetics.
Hey girl, has overpriced beauty hurt your wallet?
e.l.f. that! Elfino and Schmarns have gone to e.l.f. Court for millions of clients, helping them to access beauty products they deserve at prices that won't injure their livelihoods.
Just ask the elfin people.
So, e.l.f., having seen the backlash to everything, issued out an apology, okay? And the apology was also a complete backfired, dumpster fire nightmare, to say the absolute least, because it uses comedy to almost stand their ground on the issue, okay? And the apology reads as follows. e.l.f. put on their Instagram story, and I quote, "You know us, we're always listening and we've heard you. This campaign aimed to humorously spotlight beauty injustice. We understand we missed the mark with people we care about in the e.l.f. community. While Elfino and Schmarns closes today, we'll continue to make the case against overpriced beauty." Now, a lot of people thought that that was just very disingenuous, and why would you use comedy to kind of dilute the backlash and the severity of the issue that really remains here? So in there, they say that Elfino and Schmarns, which is reminiscent of another law firm that the name escapes me right now, but it's unimportant. Just know that that was like the cutesy little quirky entendre for a law firm that Matt Rife and the drag queen were working for to make accessible to make accessible beauty products to everybody, still affordable and everything. And they say that they'll continue to make the case against overpriced beauty, which is something that they've always stood for. Now, here's my thing. I would like to know if literally anybody in e.l.f.'s multi-billion-dollar marketing executive board has taken any sort of, marketing 101 class in like high school or college or something. Because the problem, just like the Cracker Barrel rebrand, which you're going to cover in a few days as well, these people seem to forget who their clients are, okay? And when you have your own chief of marketing, who is a woman, for the record, saying that she's, quote, very surprised at the response of the ad, e.l.f., unlike American Eagle, who we covered a few episodes ago, seems to have lost their market, okay? Because it's not men that buy cosmetics, okay? Newsflash. Heterosexual men, of which 90% of them are, on planet Earth, are not going to use cosmetics, okay? It's not every day that every heterosexual man is a movie star that needs cosmetics. And even if they were, they're not going to be using drugstore products. Now, I know that e.l.f. is Jeffree Star approved, no shade. But despite the controversial jokes and the insensitive response to the backlash and blah, 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 what were they thinking? Like, what were they thinking putting a heterosexual man as the face of their cosmetics company that prides itself in empowering women's voices? Okay, it makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, for a couple of reasons. American Eagle, whose stock price soared after their controversy, I have a couple of theories as to why that is, and that's because they used a woman in their ad. No matter how controversial it is, American Eagle tailors their jeans to women. So it would make sense that despite the controversy, their stock price would have actually done better in theory because they were actually using a woman who would wear the actual jeans. Men are not wearing makeup, e.l.f. It's not that hard. And there's a reason that men, in my opinion, again, I'm no marketing expert, are not depicted in, say, perfume ads or cosmetics or ads for high heels, because that's not your target market. Like, there's a reason that they put these really hot men on, like cologne and cars and yada yada. And you would think that because men, it's not because men are attracted to men. Not everything is gay, like we're trying to make it nowadays. It's just that men are attracted to toxic masculinity, okay? No shade. If they can associate whatever cologne that they're wearing or whatever car that they're driving with the essence of masculinity, that's what they're going to do. People, particularly women and homosexual people who are more effeminate, are not going to want a masculine man who's heterosexual at that, who makes insensitive jokes about women, to be the face of their cosmetics brand. It's that simple. Now, playing devil's advocate here on the show, as we know I love to do, I'm going to assume that e.l.f. didn't really go into this marketing campaign thinking to themselves that this was going to be as big of a backfire as it was, because they probably understood at the marketing team that Matt Rife, of his own understanding and clarification, is that women were the people that really propelled him into stardom in the beginning. On social media and all that stuff. And, he's a very objectively handsome guy. So they were probably thinking to themselves, like, this is going to be a gold mine for us, right? Because we have a very attractive man. But the problem is, I'm going to have to make merch that says, but the problem is that they must have not seen the transition when he, in his own words, says that he's trying to be more marketable to guys. Not even men, not boys, not masculinity, guys. And if there's one thing about guys, it's that they don't wear makeup. And when he himself says, I want to be more in, align with my comedy with a male-dominated audience, he just, without a doubt, alienated over half of the market. Okay? Oh, I don't know, maybe the market that uses makeup, being women and more effeminate people, Now, in my opinion, though, here's where it's going to get a little bit controversial, okay? So stay with me. When it comes to comedy and jokes, particularly when you know that the intention of it was just to get a laugh out of somebody, even if it's at the expense of somebody else, a joke is a joke. That's it. It wasn't meant to offend. It's meant to be provocative. And even if it is offensive, it wasn't meant to actually, make it this huge thing against the actual demographic of whomever, whatever it is that you're making fun of. And thousands of women after this took to Matt Rife's defense, a lot of which who even claimed to be sufferers of DV themselves, and said that they didn't take any offense to it and stood with him for the simple fact that the joke he made was in fact a joke. And it's unfair to say that it's anything other than that, and you have to look at somebody's intentions. And based on what he said a few minutes ago on how if he started the Netflix special Natural Selection with something as controversial as DV, the rest of the show would be smooth sailing. And lo and behold, he was right. Now, I can't sit here for 1 second and truly believe in my soul and in my heart and in my mind and everything that I know as a consumer of comedy and as a person who's lived and was raised in a primarily female-dominated world, that he's calling for the, systemic abuse of women, and he's not he's not diluting the severity of DV. If anything, and this is going to be another controversial thing, and I would love to debate somebody on this topic, but to me it almost seems as though if somebody is comfortable enough to make a joke to you about something, that shows that in a way they probably more so care. They're more comfortable to actually try to get you to laugh. And I know that comedy is not for everybody, and I know that there are times you must differentiate between being, a comedian and being serious. Like, you wouldn't laugh at a funeral. But let's just say that 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, the person's long gone, or the woman had already suffered the attacks or whatever, and they feel comfortable enough to make a joke with you, and you respond negatively. If they apologize to you or explain that their intention wasn't to embarrass you or hurt you, even though the joke was maybe at the expense of your experience or the person that had, passed away or whatever, then that's totally different. But there are a lot of people, and I could see the pessimism of when it comes to somebody like Matt Rife, who's literally alienating women in the world now, even though they're the ones that propelled him into stardom. They probably have an issue with what his actual underlying intentions were. Now, I could totally reason with that. I really, really can. I could see how somebody could think to themselves, well, maybe he is calling for the abuse of women or making fun of the sufferers of DV. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, it was a joke. But just like with the American Eagle ad and all of this controversial stuff, it doesn't matter what the principle of it was. What matters is the response and how you respond to it thereafter. And despite of whatever his intention was, the response from the market was clearly not as anticipated. So at the end of the day, this is a crazy story, and I really hope that e.l.f. is able to come back from this, because they do actually do a lot for women, and these boycotts, they don't help anybody, in my opinion. They really don't. Maybe, you could sit here and say that you have the moral high ground and yada, 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 yada. But if you were to bankrupt this company, you just put millions of people out of access of affordable products that they rely on each and every single day. You're putting people out of work. You're damaging the sanctity and the severity of the actual cause that you're trying to fight for. So I am always against cancel culture. I find it to be frivolous and, quite frankly, dangerous. But that's all I have to say on the topic. This has been Here's My Thing, starring Frankie Salazar. And as always, I would love to hear your thing on such a controversial topic. So please sound off wherever you see this clip and or full video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Mwah.